So once again today, there's some really sad news I want to talk about. A death linked to regenerative medicine has been in the headlines. It was reported on March 13th. At a clinic in Chuo Ward, Tokyo, a woman in her 60s, a foreign national, died after receiving regenerative treatment. And honestly, we've seen deaths from regenerative medicine reported a few times before, haven't we? So today, I'd like to ask you all about it in detail, both the risks of these accidents and the benefits of regenerative medicine.
So, let's dive right in. First, about this news. What was your honest first impression?
It was a truly shocking piece of news. It's called regenerative medicine, but it isn't regenerating anything at all. Let me walk through a few of the likely reasons behind this death. There are many kinds of stem cells, but in this case, a type called mesenchymal stem cells was injected into the bloodstream, and that's what led to the death. These particular cells come from fat tissue. Because they live inside fat, what they can become is fat, bone, or cartilage. A cell lives in one fixed place. That's the environment where it can survive and keep its character. For example, if you put liver cells under the skin, they won't form a liver. Put stomach cells into the face, and they just disappear. A cell is that cell precisely because it's in an environment where it can live. That's the fundamental point. So these fat-derived stem cells are built to live inside fat. Put them into a blood vessel, and basically they can't survive there. And there's another issue. The cells that normally live in blood vessels are used to it, so they can travel through even the thinnest vessels. But when a cell that doesn't normally belong there shows up, it can't get through the narrow vessels, and it clogs them. Where are the very thinnest blood vessels? In the lungs. The lungs are essentially a mass of capillaries, so huge numbers of the injected cells flow in and get stuck there. The blood cells that belong in the bloodstream pass through as always, but cells that don't normally belong can't get through, so they block the vessel. When the lungs get clogged, oxygen can't circulate or be exchanged, and if it gets severe, it becomes life-threatening. On top of that, since these cells can't survive there, they lose their function. All kinds of inflammation kicks in, and things spiral out of control very fast. Injecting huge amounts of a cell that shouldn't be in that place into the bloodstream in the first place, that's a really risky thing to do. Think about it. If you just hear the word stem cell, maybe it doesn't bother you. But imagine someone said, "I'm going to inject tooth cells into your blood," or "Tomorrow I'll put 100 million hair root cells into your veins." Hair might literally start growing in your blood vessels. Normally you'd hate that. But wrap it in the soft-sounding word stem cells, inject huge amounts into the bloodstream, and that risk just isn't being explained properly.
So then, is putting fat-derived stem cells somewhere else, in and of itself, a risk?
Well, that's case by case. For example, taking fat cells from the belly and putting them into the breast for augmentation. That's fat going into another fat area. The situation changes a little, but the risk is low. Or take skin grafts. If you get burned, you take skin from your buttocks and place it over the burn. That's skin to skin, so the cells can survive there and do their job. But if you said you were going to put skin cells inside the eye would turn into skin. That's obviously risky. So it really is quite different depending on the case. Those were extreme examples, but that gives you the picture.
Now, in so-called stem cell therapy, there's treatment where the stem cells themselves are given by IV drip. And there's also what's called stem cell culture supernatant, the exosomes, basically the liquid without the cells. So comparing the ones that actually contain the cells with the exosomes that don't, which is safer?
Since we're talking about IV drips, this is about putting something into the bloodstream. Both carry risk. You're injecting something into a blood vessel. But while cells carry the risk of clogging, exosomes and supernatant don't clog. Ultimately, the best case is that nothing happens, that it simply had no effect. In that sense, the ones without cells carry less risk. That said, even for the cell-free ones, you should care about what raw materials are used and at what concentration. Just like when we eat, we check where the meat is from, whether it's genetically modified. This is something going into your own body, so you should care about who made it and what it's derived from, even if there are no cells in it.
On the flip side, cases that make the news like this do come up now and then. But conversely, there must be plenty of people who've had these treatments and had nothing happen. For those people, whether right after treatment or even a few weeks later, are they in the clear?
Honestly, we don't know. The real problem right now, and I've looked at a lot of the reporting and advertising, is that it's become a numbers game. We'll put in hundreds of millions, we'll put in billions. It keeps escalating, and they end up injecting huge amounts of cells that shouldn't be there, that wouldn't naturally exist in those numbers. In small amounts, it probably wasn't a problem, but now it's about putting massive quantities in over a very short time. And to go further, you're multiplying these cells, so you have to ask whether they carry any genetic mutations. If there's a mutation, there's a cancer risk. The cell itself can turn cancerous and multiply out of control. You really should be mindful of that before injecting. But when it comes to taking ordinary stem cells out of the body, multiplying them, and putting them back, consumers aren't paying attention. There's no awareness that cells make copies of themselves. And when they copy, errors happen. That's why with iPSCells, because errors occur during multiplication, we run quality checks before use. Since copying can introduce mistakes, this idea that more is simply better is a bit off.
You just mentioned cell quality. For instance, you often see figures like 200 or 300 million cells advertised. Can 200 or 300 million cells realistically be quality checked?
Checking 200 or 300 million, one by one, is impossible. You sample them and check what percentage of the cells are sound. For something like iPSCells, the kind actually used in transplant medicine covered by insurance, they really are checked that way.
And this checking system in practice, there are lots of these culture facilities, so-called CPCs, right? Do their safety levels differ?
Hugely. First point, how sterile is the handling? If they're careless while handling the cells and bacteria get in, that's the worst case. So how well is sterility guaranteed? And with what detection sensitivity are they checking? That's the first thing. Second, since you're multiplying the cells in large numbers, how are they being copied? If they're not multiplied outside the body, like suctioning fat and putting it straight back, you don't have to worry as much. But when they're multiplied outside, there's that risk of contamination. Third, the risk of genetic damage during multiplication. How thoroughly have they tested for that? It all comes down to cell quality. But consumers don't really ask, even though they should. Ideally, you'd want something like, these stem cells are from such and such maker, so they're okay. But without that, it's hard, and people are getting injected without giving it a second thought.
But going forward, as iPSCells become more and more practical, when you compare what's being done now, these fat-derived treatments, with iPSCells, will fat-based stem cell therapy eventually disappear?
No, it's not that. Fat-derived stem cells are actually being transplanted into patients with conditions like stroke, with university research institutions running clinical trials. That genuinely exists. And in the US too, there are efforts to get stem cells approved and transplanted for various diseases. But the difference between that and self-pay clinics is the guarantee of cell quality. Even within self-pay practice, some providers are run by people who were doing a completely different job a year ago, while others are staffed by seasoned people with years of experience who test everything properly. So it's not that it'll disappear. Even in self-pay practice, you have to use properly tested cells. Guidelines are needed, and consumers have to hold out for that standard. Why? Because, as you said earlier, your own cells stay with you for good. That's an enormous difference. The fact that your own cells remain is a really crucial point.
Currently, especially for self-pay treatments, from your perspective, how should national regulation handle this?
That's actually an area where Japan can advance a great deal. Medicine, by its nature, involves trialing things that haven't been approved yet. For example, Seishu Hanaoka, the first person in Japan to trial general anesthesia, tested it on himself and his own wife, and that's how he built the technique. On the other hand, if you just wait for approval, sometimes the people who really need it can't get it. And doctors do have the discretion to adopt good treatments. So balance is key. Take all of that away, and new medicine won't emerge and the industry won't grow. But if it's too loose, this is something going into your body, problems can happen.
When people see news like this, they often come away thinking regenerative medicine is dangerous, that stem cell therapy is risky. The general public seeing this would think exactly that. But it can't be summed up in a single word. If the treatment is done with a solid grasp of the basics of regenerative medicine, then... So, to lower the safety risks even further, what should people do?
Right. Beyond that, it depends on the procedure. Injecting into blood vessels carries a high risk if something goes wrong. Take a stem cell injection into the knee. It goes deep, but only into a limited area. Something on the surface and limited in scope is low risk. Deep and widespread is the highest risk. Where you get it done matters too. If consumers understood that distinction, they could think, the skin? That's probably fine. Or, for something deeper, if my knee hurts enough that I'm facing an artificial joint, maybe I'll try stem cells. That's deep, but still localized. But when it goes deeper and affects the whole body, you need to ask the right questions and make sure the cell quality is guaranteed. Aren't they injecting too much? Won't it clog? It's about balancing the injection site against the risk.
With this accident in regenerative medicine, going forward, will national regulation get stricter?
It's said to be under consideration, yes. Regenerative medicine is managed under a law called the Act on the Safety of Regenerative Medicine, and it's classified into Class 1 through 3. You can't manufacture without proper certification of the production facility. So there is a checking system in place through that certification. But how do we actually prevent cases like this one? Regulation alone can't do it. Like what we're trying to do, the consumer side really needs to understand cells and risks well, so that bad actors get weeded out in the free market. That kind of thing is necessary too, I think. So, to sum up today, fat cells can only live in a fat environment. Eye cells can only live as eye cells. Liver cells only as liver cells. So, injecting them where they don't belong puts stress on the cells and carries a risk of things getting worse. The currently suspected cause of this death is that fat cells were injected into the bloodstream in huge numbers, couldn't pass through the capillaries, and clogged the vessels, especially in the lungs, where the finest capillaries are concentrated, likely causing a pulmonary embolism. One more important thing. Since these are cells injected into your own body, where they were made and how their quality is managed really matters. It's important that you, the consumers, the ones receiving the treatment, use information like this to raise your own literacy. On this channel, we'll keep sharing accurate, useful information about regenerative medicine and stem cell therapy. So to help it reach as many people as possible, please subscribe. And we'll see you in the next video.